James Forrestal died in the early morning hours of May 22nd. Now let's walk through the night itself, carefully. The corpsman assigned to watch Forrestal till midnight observed him pacing and growing concerned. Forrestal told him he didn't want a sedative. He planned to stay up and read. The corpsman tried to alert the duty doctor sleeping in an adjacent room. The doctor brushed him off and went back to sleep. At 1:45 in the morning, the night corpsman, Robert Wayne Harrison, looked into Forrestal's room. Lights were off. Forrestal appeared to be sleeping. Harrison left the room. Sometime in the next 15 minutes, Forrestal's body was found on the lower roof ledge 13 stories below. A bathrobe cord knotted tightly around his neck. There was no evidence that it had been tied to anything. Not to the radiator, not to the window frame, not to anything. Cord had been attached and snapped under his weight. Linen would have been found still fastened. It wasn't. There was no single mark on the radiator suggesting it had ever been tied there. Broken glass was found on his bed. The nurse who first entered the room saw broken glass on the bed itself. No standard account explains the broken glass. The poem, the alleged suicide note, its own problem, the official story. Forrestal had been seen copying a morbid passage from Sophocles' tragedy Ajax, a poem about a warrior contemplating death. The story of him being seen writing the poem originated with one biographer, Arnold Rogal, who had no source for it. When the Wilcox Rupert was finally declassified in 2004, 55 years after the death, it revealed that the corpsman that was in the room from midnight forward testified under oath that the lights were off the entire time he was on duty. Forrestal did no reading. Forrestal did no writing. That poem transcription was never authenticated for handwriting, and it stopped mid-word. Official summary released in October 1949 stated only that Forrestal died from the injuries received in the fall. It made no mention of the bathrobe cord, no mention of the poem, no determination of how or why the fall occurred, and it classified the full report for 55 years. This is where it gets heavy. Within hours of Forrestal's death, a stranger in a crowded hospital corridor approached Monsignor Maurice Sheehy, Forrestal's priest and friend who had rushed to the hospital. The man was a hospital corpsman, a warrant officer with 20 years of service stripes. He leaned in and said in a low voice, "You know Mr. Forrestal didn't kill himself, don't you?" Then he walked away. Henry Forrestal, James's brother, said from the beginning that James was, quote, the last person who would have committed suicide, that he had absolutely no reason for taking his life, that the whole affair smelled of high heaven. Henry was a Democrat. He blamed the Truman administration for covering up his brother's death. An academia researcher, Arnold Rogal, the only man who wrote the only majorly scholarly biography of Forrestal, interviewing Dean Acheson, Clark Clifford, Robert Lovett, and Harry Truman himself, concluded that among those closest to Forrestal, quote, if not murdered, that his death was very much desired by individuals and groups who in 1949 held great power in the United States. McCarthy went to the floor of the United States Senate and said, quote, the Communist Party killed Forrestal, and just as cold-blooded as though they machine-gunned him. A journalist named Westbrook Pagler wrote that, quote, Pearson had hounded Jim Forrestal with dirty aspirations and insinuations, until at last, exhausted and nerves unstrung, one of the finest servants the Republic ever had died of suicide. I'm not telling you who killed James Forrestal. Nobody's proven that. What I am telling you is what the record shows. A man who warned America's Middle East policy was being driven by political pressure, rather than national security. Was smeared, fired, isolated, denied access to his priest, died on the morning his brother was coming to take him home, with a cord knotted around his neck. In a room where the windows and bars had been removed before he arrived, and a Navy review board that never called it suicide, and a full report classified for 50 years. Now line that up next to Patton. Then line it up next to Kennedy. Ask yourself what pattern you're looking at. Nothing I say on this channel is a secret. You can Google anything I say and find it's true. If you made it this far, share the video and let me know what you think in the comments. Are you where yet?